Morning, Dr. L. Good morning, Dr. L. Can we start?
Oh, good morning.
You coughed right in the middle. I'm going to start again so we can use this a clean take later. Good morning, Dr. L.
Good morning, Matt B. Davis.
Did you get a haircut?
You know, I didn't get a hair. My hair is growing. Like it's finally becoming, dare I say it, feminine?
More than you're a woman. You don't look like a small boy as you did on previous occasions.
I know. It's true. I mean, we'll see how long it lasts because, I'm all about the ease and, efficiency. So we'll see.
As am I.
Yeah.
Is that
Clearly.
Clearly, she said, is that an insult?
No, it's brilliant. It's wonderful. I feel though, like usually you have some facial stuff happening.
Yeah, I actually just got out of the shower. I shaved and yeah, that's what I do in the shower now every few days. I think I like looking younger, so I'm shaving more. I think that's what's happening.
And you think the shaving helps you look younger?
Well, of course. That's like by definition it does, right?
I don't know. I
Does
feel
anybody
like sometimes a good 5 o'clock shadow is like, I'm young but hip.
Or I'm a terrorist.
Maybe.
We're watching a lot of Homeland lately. Have you seen that?
I'm up to date, so I can't really
talk.
Oh,
okay. So we just started season 5. We're going to have an entire breakdown when we're done because Stacey and I don't know when we've been more drawn into a show than this in recent memory.
It's literally, well, Claire Danes is like my all-time favorite person on the planet. I mean, I feel like I know her, like we're sort of besties.
Right.
So Homeland is, I think it's one of the most brilliant shows, and Mandy Patinkin is also like the best.
Yeah, I told Stacey that Claire's on the short list of women I'll ask out if Stacey dies. And, those of us that know her from her younger days, like that's all she was my so-called life. And I think she was in one of the Terminators, and I haven't really thought about her, but yeah, she's amazing.
She's incredible.
I don't even like to look up things because I'm afraid of things getting spoiled, but I did look up that she has won a couple of awards for this performance, and it's not a show that I thought I would like. And even the first couple seasons, I wasn't even big on him. I wasn't big on Brody. Like he was kind of not doing it for me. Like his acting was weird and they were kind of a little weird. For those that haven't seen it at all, I don't want to spoil anything about the show. But I'm saying that, and then he sort of grew on me more, but we just started season 5 and I was like, well, how many are there? Like 6 or 7? It's 9.
I know.
So I'm so excited for what is to come. And I had no idea I would love a show this much. I don't know when I've been more on the edge of my seat on an episode per episode basis. We're holding hands.
I know we watched last night, like the one that was on Sunday, and like usually I'm one of those people that gets really annoyed when people make comments during a show, when they're like, oh, wow, or ooh, like I'm like, shut up, be quiet. And totally last night, multiple times during the episode, I was like, oh my gosh, no, wait, So, dude, it's amazing. And I love the premise of like, well, I don't know, I feel like of what happened, like the duality of mental illness hurting you and helping you. Like that, correct. I think is fantastic.
Correct. And I certainly wasn't expecting that. And I think it's really realistic, right? Because we can say this without spoiling it. Carrie's a woman who's very good at her job.
Right.
And sees things that others don't see.
Right.
And has an unwavering commitment. However, there's times that one does need to go, hey, 10 of your friends have said maybe chill out and maybe you should kind of look at what's going on. But when you're in your illness, in your disease, you don't fucking see it. You're like, fuck, why is no one listening to me?
But the other part is that like there are times when her illness literally helps her be better at her job, which I think is just, I mean, I think they've just done a fantastic job. Like, it's just so good because it's really real. I mean, in my experience as a psychologist, I've certainly worked with clients, for example, who like when they're in the throes of a particular like branch of their illness, sometimes they actually do perform better
Dude,
at
is
work.
your phone going off? Because that's the second time I heard a really, really loud ding.
Yeah, it is, but I don't know how to turn it off. Like on my computer. Sorry, hold on. Okay, did that work?
Well, I mean, we won't know until you get another one. But
okay, here, maybe if I put do not disturb on my phone, maybe we'll try.
Try that.
Anyway, the point is, in my work, like I've definitely seen individuals who, in like parts of their mental illness, like they have found a particular like element of success in the throes of a particular struggle, whether it's an addiction or, for example, I've worked with professional athletes who like in the throes of raging anorexia have gotten the best time they've ever gotten, so it's really interesting, I think, sort of like that piece of things.
Well, I think so. Speaking personally, I'm a crazy self-starter that often creates things that aren't there and thinks this might work. And I don't, right? Like that's what can be really good. But then the downside can be, not having forethought. And it's like some people like too dumb to quit, they say, or too like they always say like, we'll put a new person on this because they don't know enough to know that it's not going to work, kind of thing.
Right.
So I can certainly see it in my own life. And then I think professional athletes in general, when you see, many of them, like, so there's one on, there's a great HBO thing on Serena Williams. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't watched that yet.
It's only like 4 episodes. So it's kind of easy to get through, and you watch the criticism one at that level gives themselves, and you're like, oh, well, she's just like me. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, here she is, the best possibly ever at this particular thing, and here's what she's getting down on herself about because she's a fucking human being, right? Or there's another one on Lindsey Vonn, right? And the perfectionism is out of control, but like, at what cost? If it makes you great at this and you can become successful and you can help people, you know what I mean? All those things.
Totally. But then it's, it's so interesting though, because then it's sort of like at some point there's like this super thin line that you cross where it's like, and then you lose yourself because of it,
right. Right.
And it's hard, I think, to get people back to that line sometimes. So I don't know. It's interesting, but yeah, I mean, when you finish and when you catch up, I mean, we will go to town on.
No, so wait, are you currently in season 9 or 10?
I'm in the final one, like the one that's on TV now.
Which is what? Is that 9 or 10? Because Amazon has 9, so
it's got to be 10 then.
I'll look it up.
Amazon wouldn't have the live show now,
right? Except maybe they'd be a week behind. Maybe.
Oh, maybe.
Well, we're watching it Showtime through Amazon. Maybe.
Oh, okay.
It's Showtime, right?
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Bang, boom, boom, bang. That's the beginning of the Showtime thing. Showtime never been a big winner for shows, but this one's definitely a winner. So.
Well, so is Billions, which is,
Oh, I've heard that's a good one.
Yeah, I think we've mentioned that before.
We have? When you say we, do you mean you and Josh?
Pretty much mean you and me.
Oh, you've said go watch it?
Billions?
Yeah.
Dude, yes.
Okay, well then when we're done, when Stacey and I are done, because right now we're all in on this.
Wait. Oh no, I'm thinking of Succession.
No,
Sorry.
Succession, right.
Yeah, Succession's like, no, Billions is so good.
Yeah, we couldn't get Josh to watch Succession.
Ugh.
Exactly. Eye roll, Josh. Get on it. Get off your fucking Marvel train and watch a real thing.
Well, maybe he'll have time now.
Maybe he will have time now. Speaking of time now. So we're on day 2 of what can only be described as homeschooling. Day 1 was miserable. And there's we've attempted, where it's 10 a.m., we've attempted to have a bit of structure today. And I brought you on as a professional and because I like you as a person to discuss this, because Stacy and I,
I don't know how. I
just
don't know how.
go to your, are you on an Apple?
Yeah.
Okay, go to hit the little Apple and force quit Messenger. How about that? Can you do that?
Yeah, it's quit. That's the thing. It's quit.
It's clearly not quit.
I'm going to take a screenshot and send it to you. It's clearly quit.
Did you go to force quit?
Yeah, but it's quit. You know what I think I should do is
force quit everything.
No, because then I'll force quit you on accident.
Well, everything except for this.
How do I turn off the alerts? That's what I need to do.
Oh, so that you got to go to notifications.
Okay, here we go. Hold on.
Or does M&I say notifications? Go to your notifications.
Where's that on the computer?
So
oh my gosh, people are so annoyed right now.
Go to let the record show, Josh. I know you're listening. I am helping Dr. L with Tech Corner.
Okay, system preferences.
Go to system preferences.
Notifications.
Notifications.
Oh yeah. Messages. Turn it off, baby. Play sound for notifications. All right, got it.
Amazing.
Thanks.
Amazing.
Okay. All right, so you're on.
Remember, ladies and gentlemen, Matt Davis is a member of Generation X. I'm not a boomer. Born in 72.
I'm not tech savvy.
Okay. No, I just remind people because they call me fucking boomer over there. So Stacy and I do not consider ourselves panicky people. We did not go in the rush to buy a lot of things. We very calmly went to the store for a couple days. I had a big shopping excursion yesterday, which we can talk about. But overall, we think we're handling things fine.
Yeah.
And then we noticed we were very reactive, let's just say, to our children yesterday. And it's like, like maybe we're not doing fine. Maybe we're affected by this. Maybe they're affected by this in ways we didn't think about. So can we talk about that? Because I associate people who are constantly posting and fear mongering, but clearly as a human, we are struggling over here. And like I said, that was just day one. And the idea of, oh my God, if I have to be home for a month with my fucking children.
Totally. Well, so, I mean, I get it. I get it. We're on day two too, but this was supposed to be our spring break week. So we had sort of already digested that like everybody would be home this week. So I think it feels a little different anyway. But I think one of the things that's sort of interesting is like that maybe we're not talking enough about, and maybe we need to wrap language around a little bit, is like, you know, if you think of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So like at the bottom, there's like the food and air and all that. And then there's security and like safety. And I think one of the things that like has been fractured right now is our sense of security and safety.
Correct.
Not only for like our physical well-being, but financially and, you know, resource wise, like, will there be enough for me? Have I gotten enough? So, and I feel like we're just like, everybody's using the words scared and anxious and stressed. But I think like this sense of safety is really important for us to just sort of tap into and talk a little bit about, because it has tremendous effects on our mental well-being and on our like foundation of normalcy because of this fracture, you know. And in a lot of ways, and I'm probably going to get slammed for the people who are listening to this and like want to give a huge eye roll because they're going to be like, oh, here we go, shrink talk. But like, we're all going through a bit of a trauma right now. And
I'm shaking my head. I'm sorry. I'm shaking my head. I have to make sure the audio audience knows that I'm
that you're
nodding in approval.
Yeah. I mean, and I think too that like, you know, I know that people are like, oh, here we go. Like everything's a trauma, you know, like, but our sense of safety is fractured. And that actually is in a lot of ways, like the definition of, so it is what we are there.
Well, this is what helped me understand when I was going through my stuff with anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Part of our makeup as humans, okay, when you are surviving, literally surviving with like no language and could get eaten by a wild animal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your body has these things that sense like, get the fuck away, right?
That's right. Totally.
So that's what anxiety is.
Yep.
And it's good for your body.
Yep.
And being a mature adult with feelings, we learn like, oh, this is a feeling. This is how I can address it. It's natural. I don't have to give into it. I don't have to play the tape through and spiral out and all the things we learn about anxiety. But um, even if that word flips you out, how about just we're all in this shit together in a
Mm-hmm.
way we never have? And I want to specifically talk about something we joked about this morning about the money thing, but it's actually something that, so we posted today about Spartan having these furloughs, temporary layoffs, right? And I posted like, this might affect more than just your weekend plans, right?
Mm-hmm.
So actually, I said this yesterday, Aaron. I don't care. I'll probably say it in 3 different podcasts, and I don't care because I think it's important to talk about. I just signed up for a co-working place. Literally just signed up. It's really cheap to you don't get an office, you just get a table and free coffee, right? At these 3 different locations. It's this hip Atlanta switch yards.
Got it.
They have speakers once a month. Very, very, very new, very like tech meets whatever, like, cool. So it was $50, and then they have a $50 onboarding, which I think is just their way of like, hey, if you're serious, you'll come and you'll check it out or whatever.
Yeah.
And I went to my little onboarding, and they literally just swiped my card. And then 2 days later, I haven't even had a chance to use it yet. It was, hey, we're closed for 2 weeks, and you can't come here. So March 1st will reopen, or April 1st will reopen. And my first thought, lizard brain, sources are limited, was fuck you, I just paid you, give me my money. That was literally my first thought.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know how many seconds it took after that, but then I got to pretty quickly, all right, so everybody's kind of screwed right now, all businesses everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't I not be the guy that asks for a refund? I'm sure some people are, and I'm sure they're probably giving it, but why don't I just take a beat and not ask for it? And then I didn't. So again, I'm no better than a person who, like, I had the thought. I'm not saying I immediately thought, I will donate thousands to homeless people. Like, I had a human thought called, fuck them, give me my money, I just paid you.
Right.
So, so this brings up a very real thing that I think we can also talk about, that we just talked about with, I am pretty sure, and I already saw one comment with Spartan layoffs that was like, well, I hope they're doing blah, blah with people. And it's like, I think people assume all business owners like Joe are billionaires.
Right.
And can just afford to pay everybody.
That's right.
And, I want you to think about whoever you work for or yourself and what you would do without income. Spartan is an events company. If there's no events to put on, you don't need that many employees, and you are spending a lot of money on staff that usually put those things together. So, you know me, I am no Descendant defender. I am no Spartan defender, but I'm saying it's kind of tough all over for everybody.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Well, and also, I mean, I think, and this is where, like, again, like that, what you talked about, like the protective part of us is that fight, flight, or freeze, right? And, I think like that protective part of us, right? It's like, it goes, we're in like hyperdrive mode on that right now, because it's like wherever you turn, there's something that's a threat, right? So it's like, am I going to have a job? Like, am I going to have food? Like, am I going to get sick? Are my friends and family going to get sick? Like, everywhere feels threatening a little bit right now. I mean, literally, like yesterday, I went out to the field across our house, and I was doing runs back and forth, and like stations at every time. And there was a family on there having a picnic, and one of the kids was coughing, and I was like, Parker and Keaton, get inside! mean, I literally like scooped up like 60 pounds worth of medicine balls and I was like, go! But it was totally, and like when I came inside, I was like, okay, sorry guys, let's take a deep breath. Because I literally reacted like that. Like I'm a little bit exaggerating, but barely. But it was just, my brain was immediately like, threat. That is really scary. We're hearing everything about how scary that is and dangerous that is. Get out now, you know? So I think too, that was like my flight response. But the fight response is this sort of like combative, aggressive position of, you know, we've got limited resources, or we're gonna have, you know, we're not gonna pay you, or what, you know, around the board. Like imagine the service industry right now, like restaurants are closed. And I mean, so if anything, this is such a time for us to like acknowledge empathy. And as you said before, like we are all in this together. Like there is not one individual that will not be impacted by this in some way, shape, or form. Like there just isn't.
Right. And we've never had that. We've had
Right.
recessions. We've had, you know, I've talked about this a lot. As I know people are, speaking of eye rolling, when I had my previous business, it's funny, once upon a time, I feel like nobody knew anything about my previous life.
Right.
And now apparently I bring up that I did stand up and had a staffing company 100 times, because people are like, yeah, Matt, we know you had a fucking staffing company. So 2008, 2010, there was a lot of similar, the sky is falling, right?
Right.
And I knew a lot of business owners in my world. So I was in staffing, which specifically around experiential marketing. And there was a lot of, well, you know, marketing is the first to go. And if I look at my numbers, I had my best years. Like, yes, there were events that got canceled, but most things went ahead because they were planned well in advance, right? Like when you plan a marketing event or a program or a whatever. Like, so, okay, so here's a perfect example. If Rogue Chips, if part of their marketing plan is we're going to be at 20 Spartans,
Right.
just because the economy crashes, they're already going to be at 20 Spartans, right?
That's
so right. I did well or better than a lot of folks because I just chose I just chose to focus on abundance, man. And I know that might sound froofy, but in this case, this isn't that, right?
No.
This is not industry specific. This is worldwide, right? The only people who are guaranteed jobs, I would say, are the medical industry, right? Like that's really other than, and they're going to be overworked, right?
That's right.
I mean, and listen, again, talking about human behaviors, I'm someone that if you and I are on a run together, we are going to share everything. Water bottles, whatever. Some people always do the squirt in their mouth thing. Some people don't, but I'm not someone who's like, could ever care or think about it. And I went on a run with my friend. And remember, every day the fear seems to like rise.
Yeah.
So Saturday, it wasn't as bad as it was today, but he and I met for a run and we did the jokey thing that people are doing now, which is like the elbow like instead of a fist bump, the elbow bump. And we went on a run together. And at one point I was really thirsty and I did think like, I want his water, but I'm not going to drink it. And like, I kind of like went through my mind around it. Like, why don't I just ask? Why don't I screw? And I was like, no, I'm just not going to. And this is like a good friend of mine. Like we're enjoying our time together, but that's
Right.
never a thought I would have had in my life. Never. Right.
Right. Right.
And so then we go to there's all these breweries in this neighborhood. We go to eat tacos and there's people there because at that point they hadn't closed all the restaurants. They still haven't here, by the way. They still haven't officially closed. They've just said no gatherings or whatever. But, you know, I'm watching people and I'm like, should we be eating tacos? Should we be eating like dip together? Like these are thoughts I've never had before.
I know. Well, and I think that's the other thing that's like scary for people is that they're not only are the circumstances different than what they've ever been for us, but in addition to that, our thoughts are like, there are thoughts that are popping up for us that are also equally scary because we've never had those thoughts before, you know, and, or maybe you know, I don't want to put the big blanket over, like, none of us have ever thought this before. Like, certainly there are out there people who have, you know, struggled and, you know, been at risk of losing their job or lost their job. But like in this particular situation, I think it's fair to say that like with the amount of external factors that are happening right now, internally, we're dealing with things that sometimes we just have not had to deal with before. And I think that's just new, and new is really scary for people, and they don't know how to handle it and deal with it. And it becomes really overwhelming for them.
Yeah. I mean, I'm super grateful that I can work at home, that I can do this, right? Like I'm in the business of talking to people and we can do this. And so that's what I try to focus on. I do feel like it's temporary, but then there's people that are like, no, it's not temporary. This is going to be this way for a long time. But it's really, I think there's ever a time to take it day by day. Uh,
Totally.
Now is a time to do that. And like I said, especially with us, with my wife and I losing it with our kids multiple times yesterday, it's like, okay, because here's the thing: we have 2 weeks. The schools have been closed for 2 weeks. If they go back for the next week after that was spring breaks, we're pretty much thinking they're just gonna roll it all into one, right? And it's
Probably.
essentially a month off.
Probably.
Um, my thought that I've had is unless the numbers really spike, if we think like the greedy money people think, like if you think about some greedy money people that are like, well, we're losing money, we need to bring people back in the office, right? That's what I think is going to happen. Unless there's some like massive outbreak in the next couple of weeks, I think that's what they're going to do because that's how greedy business people think.
I think
and,
that's
and things will
accurate.
return to normal, quote unquote, but maybe they won't. But yeah, like I texted a friend of mine who's in the restaurant industry and I asked him how he's doing. And he's like, I'm, holding up okay. And I'm going to go meet him for coffee later if we can meet for coffee somewhere. That's the thing I'm bummed about. While I was in the shower, I was thinking, where can I go to work? Because working from home is an option, but it's crazy here a lot. The kids are crazy. And co-working used to be like a great thing, but now they're trying to be responsible and tell people not to come. But if I had one of those places where I had an actual office, like I think those places would be open. So I'm thinking of emailing them and being like, hey, like, can I prorate it for a month? Like, I got to get the fuck out of my house, right?
Yeah.
Starbucks
Yeah.
is Starbucks is removing the chairs so people can't hang out there. Did you know that? Do you see people took pictures of that?
No.
Yes. Because like
Wow.
we want to be open, we need your coffee, but you ain't gonna fucking loiter. So they've moved the tables out of the way. And I was like, I'm gonna sit on the floor and sit at my computer and just like wait for them to kick me out. Of course I'm not gonna do that. But yeah, it's a real thing. And I talked to, again, like, so for those that follow my amazing Instagram stories, I go to my Dunkin' Donuts up the street, right? Frequently. And you couldn't go inside. I specifically wanted to see if you could go inside. And I went through the drive-through and I said, are you guys closing inside? And they said, we're not closing because of the virus. We're closing the lobby after 2 because we're half staffed because we don't have enough business. And I said, what? I would assume you would be busier because people need coffee, even if they're not, whatever. And he said, no. And he gave me a percentage and it's so far down. He's like, it's ridiculous. So they're telling people to stay home. So that kind of brought it home for me too. Cause I think, oh, the Starbucks is doing great. It's like, that's,
Right.
small business owner, I don't know how many franchises he owns, but that can't be
Right.
good.
Right. No, not good. And I think that's where I think it's really important to remember that like every single individual will be impacted in some way. And like you may be listening and you may be like, you know what, my job's pretty secure. And like, I mean, I can imagine right now there are some therapists that are getting a lot more business, like there might be people that sort of in a financial way actually might be benefiting from this, but still the impact is there. It's like we've got sort of this, highly contagious disease that's literally like physically impacting like the health of our country and the mortality rate of our country. And then we've got this also contagious issue of just like financial, emotional, psychological impact on all of us, which I think so for me, one of the things that I think about during this time, which is like most important, is the way that we're communicating to each other. And especially having circumstances for those of you who have a family at home where you might now be on top of each other in a way that you've never been before. Like I have, both my husband and I, when he's home, we work from home, but he travels for work. He's gone every week. And so it's different having him here Monday through Friday. Like it's a very different, energy in the house even. So I think too that like that now is a time to really dial into your communication with the people that you're with in terms of, how you're regulating your emotions and talking to the individuals who are in your support circle.
You know who's doing super well right now? Drug dealers and liquor stores.
You think?
Stacey and I were talking about it. Like, imagine we're in our 20s, we're invincible anyway, and the world can fuck off anyway. That's probably what you're doing. Like, everybody come on over. We can't go to the bar, right? Even though being together is supposed to be bad, we're going to live forever anyway because we're in our
Right.
20s. I mean,
Right.
well, because somebody posted weed on their feed and they were like, I'm good for the next 2 weeks. And I was like, yeah, like the drug dealers are probably like, yeah, man, what do you want? Like, you want to stand up outside? Like, I'll put it in a baggie for you. And the liquor stores are probably killing it. I mean, people drink to anyway, but let alone when they're
Totally.
stuck at home.
Totally. Which is like, of course, the psychologist in me is like, listen, if you want to get through this with like a clear head, not like binging on alcohol, not the way to go. I mean, I could certainly go down that route, but no, I mean, I think that that's true. I think that people, and that's the truth is there are people that are benefiting from this in some way. I mean, Zoom's stock is probably through the roof. Like all of these like platforms on which people are communicating and talking to each other and actually doing work now virtually is, they're having a heyday. And yet still, even those individuals like are impacted. I mean, this touches all of us. There's not a way that it can't.
So are you still seeing patients
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
in
Mm-hmm.
person?
No, because when I moved to Colorado, that just stopped. Because I basically kept all of the clients that I had from Texas and then just did telehealth. So, and at this point in my career, I'm not bringing on new clients. So, I just see the people I see and then I do the work that I do. So
Do you use Zoom?
no.
What do you use?
I use a HIPAA compliant mental health system. I don't know if Zoom is HIPAA compliant.
I wonder what the standards are.
Well, a lot of these like FaceTime and Skype record all of the sessions. So like record all of the video recordings. Like when you click those terms and conditions that you have.
You don't think Zoom has done that? Saying they don't do that? You're saying a company has to agree to not do that without your permission.
That's correct.
Right. Which is nobody really. I mean, I don't like, people think that phone talks to you when you're off, which I don't know how the fuck even that works, but it probably does. What are you going to do?
I don't know. All I know is that mine is HIPAA compliant and
but bringing it back,
ethical AF.
I know you're ethical AF, but bringing it back around to Homeland, I want to make sure Carrie can catch those bad guys. So I'm okay. If you need to record me, Carrie and Saul are out there doing the Lord's work and they need to catch those bad guys. So, but no, there are people that put a piece of tape over this, right?
I know my video editor on some of the work that I've done, she always says that. She's like, you always have to cover up your video screen.
It's like, I think everybody has seen, whoever is out there seeing stuff has probably, but I would think, interestingly enough, people typically, when there's a financial crisis, they lose things like gym memberships and mental well-being because it's the first thing to go, thinking they don't need it. Like self-care goes out the window.
I mean, I totally think you have a great point. And I think that
of course I have a great point. That's all I do. I come up with great points.
I mean, well, that's a bit of a stretch, but no, I think you're right. I mean, I think generally that is normally what happens, and then it's funny because I've certainly had that happen in my private practice. It's like, I'll have a bunch of individuals tell me that they really can't afford me anymore, but they can definitely continue to afford their cocaine habit. Like that is definitely something they can continue to afford, but coming to see me, not so much.
Sounds like a good plan for winning. Yes.
Yeah, I get that. I think nowadays too, though, there's there's a lot of this telehealth kind of therapy and counseling formats out there, and even group sessions now too, where it's at a much lower cost. You can get somebody for like $25.
So speaking of which, something I would never think of being affected, right? Ever in a million years that's been affected is 12-step health, right?
I was thinking, that's so funny. I was thinking that this morning. Yeah.
So I'm sober and I go to meetings. I don't even go to a lot of meetings.
Right.
When I was new, I went to a lot of meetings. And some meetings are closing. Some meetings are closing because they have to, because the church says you can't, we're not letting people in. Some churches are like, you can do whatever you want, but we're not going to be here. But I went to my first meeting. So at the end of most meetings, you hold hands and, say the serenity prayer or whatever. And at the
Right.
last meeting I went to, they didn't. They're like, we're not going to hold hands.
Did people sit close to each other?
Well, no, people still sit where they sit. But when it comes time to the end, everyone stands up and holds hand like you've seen in the movies and says, keep coming back. It works if you work it. And they didn't. Like nobody did. And I was like, I will remember this day. This is really fucking weird. But there's definitely people who have like, been posting in groups like, hey, I'm using this virtual thing or that virtual thing, or, each state or city has its own central office and those are closing, but you can still, but yeah, like meetings is a huge part of recovery for a lot of people, and especially in a time like this. So I'm glad I'm not a fucking newcomer now, just getting sober and like needing meetings and like all of it. Like you go to coffee before, you go to the meeting, you go to a meal afterwards. Like it's a big thing. I mean, listen, judge if you want, but a week ago, before it was as scary as it is now, as I said, like every day it seems to get scarier.
Yeah.
I said, all these races are getting canceled. I'm going to put together a fun little group run.
Yeah.
And we'll meet at this place we usually meet and we'll go do it. And I'm still going to do it because I think it's going to be probably like 15 or 20 people, which I think is fine. I initially had said we'll bring, food to share. I think I'm going to nix that part. But maybe by Saturday, no one will come. Maybe by Saturday, 2 people will come or nobody will. But it's like, what are we going to do? I again joked on my story. There was this woman with a mask on I went to Costco early and a woman was going around with a mask on, and I looked down and I was like, well, you're pushing a cart. Like your hands are supposed to be the thing. So you're probably not safe. And I thought, well, I'm pushing a fucking cart. Right. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to go home and wash my hands. Right. Really good. And then I picked up my phone and I was like, well, is it on my phone? Because if I wash my hands and now I pick my phone back up and I just touch my face, you know what I mean? So I think I'm not saying, coronavirus be damned, but I am saying at some point it becomes like, I'm going to get it or I'm not, because you know what I mean? Like I can't.
Well, right. I mean, I heard yesterday that like, and I'm not an expert.
Neither am I.
FYI. But I did hear that like probably half of Americans will get it. It's just we obviously won't test all of them, and most of them will have such mild symptoms that they don't even think they had it. Like before, like 2 weeks before this happened, I had this like horrible cough for like 2 weeks.
Maybe you had it.
Right? I mean, it's like so yeah, it is crazy. It's crazy times. I think now more than ever, like our resourcefulness needs to sort of be called up, and we need to lean on each other and be honest about how we're feeling and do whatever we can to sort of help our community and our support system, and also know that we need to sometimes raise our hand and ask for help if we need to. Like that's one thing that I'm really trying to do here at home, because now that my husband's home and my kids are home, it's like that just sort of mom thing kicks in of like, okay, I need to organize everything and I need to do all the meals. And like, but I've been really effortful in asking my husband like, hey, so like even this morning I was like, okay, today's going to be like a busier day for me. I've got this, I've got this, I've got this, I've got this. Can you handle it? Can you help? Which is hard for me to say sometimes. Like I'll acknowledge it.
Like any of us, sure.
Right. And he was like, totally, I got it. But so I think like now more than ever, and this sounds probably very like kindergarten teacher of me, but we need to use our words and like really communicate.
Dude, right. Like I said,
I'm seeing this too. Like I'm seeing this in workplaces, like people who are, trying to communicate to colleagues or to their teams or to their supervisors, like are having a more difficult time now because of just everything that's happening. And I think like this is where, again, we just like really need to like have compassion and empathy for our neighbor, and then also really be clear and circle back with our words. I just think that's important.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm on the run with this guy and we're having a great talk, and we're catching up and talking like, not that deeply, but about life and family, whatever. And I was afraid to say, can I have a sip of your water if I do this, or even bringing it up to say that I was embarrassed about it or whatever. I think the other thing I wanted to point out before we wrap up is, about this bringing it back to the home thing is a big deal is this school thing.
Yeah.
And teachers are like, these grades are going to count and your kids are counted absent if not, which I tend not to freak out about, but my wife kind of does. And I can't take that away from her. If she's freaking out, she's freaking out.
Right.
And, I had this thought like, there is a reason you guys went to school and you get taught this and they don't let you in classrooms until you've learned under somebody else and all the things it takes to become a teacher, because it's not as simple as like do this assignment, right? And so hopefully this gives us more compassion for teachers, but also like, listen, I mean, what you can't fail my kindergartner. Like, it's like, what are you going to do? You know what I mean? So we're not going to do it perfectly, parents. We're definitely not going to do it perfectly. And yes, just like everything else in life, people who post their perfect vacation, their perfect life are posting like, today me and the kiddos made whatever, and then we had a dance party, and it's like, go fuck yourself. Like, I screamed at my children for a majority of the day and begged them to go outside, which of course they did not listen to until it was bedtime, and then they went outside, right? So like, that's what our day was like. So
right. And I mean,
take it easy on yourself.
Yeah, I don't think I had anybody text me yesterday or email me or call me and say, I handled this really well. Like that just
But people certainly posted it.
I know, which is like, I mean, come on, everybody. Like, just get real. Like, we know it's not real. We are aware it's not real. So, like, just stop, because it's not serving you. Like, it would serve you so much better to be like, I screamed at my child today for, spilling mac and cheese on the floor. And now I feel like a horrible human being. Does anybody else do that? And I can be like, right here, baby. I did it too, And then it's like, we find humanity in that versus this like veiled, I'm perfect and, created a craft for my child every 7 minutes. I mean, if you did that, great. But I bet you didn't do that.
Right. And that's the thing is that like, that's where I go with it. But I have a wife who like then feels not perfect. And you know what I mean? And even if I say like, honey, they didn't really do that. It's I've got to accept that that's where she's at with it. So yes, to all parents listening, you will not do it perfect. Please take it easy on yourself.
Right. I mean, if anybody had been recording me on the field yesterday going, Parker, get inside. I mean, they would have thought that I was a crazy person who clearly has never done work as a psychologist. But my amygdala was at work. What can I say?
And your children were named after Peter Parker and who?
Yeah, no. Actually, Parker was named after the guy who started Napster. Wasn't it Sean Parker or something?
It's a bad example.
Well, really, it came from movies. Like, me, I'm all about movies. So we were sitting and watching The Social Network, and he was like, Mark, he was Justin Timberlake's character. And I was like, Parker, what about, I like whispered over my husband, what about Parker? He's like, yeah, let's do that. And then Keaton is from Buster Keaton.
Look at you. Well, dude, I have a kid named River who I've said is not named after River Phoenix, but I think so. So, yeah. So there you go.
Being named after River Phoenix is kind of cool. River's a great, your kids have fantastic.
Yeah, that's all I'm telling you. I've said many times, it's all Stacy. Stacy goes, what about X? And I go, that's genius. Like I definitely was not the let's name our kids thing, right?
Yeah. Well, if I was going to be a boy too, I was going to be named Keaton. So I kind of stole it from my parents, honestly.
Right. Do you have a middle name that people know?
Oh, it's not great. Yeah. You'll make fun of me forever. It's Clifton Correa.
So double family name?
Well, no. So I just have 2 middle names. And so my boys also have 2 middle names. We did that kind of annoying thing.
Jackson has 2 middle names.
Lara Clifton Correa Pence. And I didn't take my husband's last name.
What kind of horrible feminist fucking hippie bastard are you?
I mean, it's true. I mean, talk about like, hashtag woman woke.
Pussy power. Hashtag pussy power.
I had always, like, literally since the day that I wanted to be a therapist, I was like, I can't wait to be Dr. Pence. And then when I married Carrie, his last name is Edmund. And I was like, Dr. Edmund just doesn't have the same ring as Dr. Pence. So I was like, sorry, I'm going to keep my last name. So I did. And now it's just annoying. You know, it's like, if I want to go change, like we've got to go to all those offices where everybody touches everything and everybody's breathing. And
Well, maybe when all this stuff, because professionally you can be whatever you want, and then you can have his, like, it only occurred to me a couple of years ago, I did not need to write Matthew on every document I ever fill out, because nobody fucking cares what my real name is. Like, go to the doctor, Matthew Davis, right? Because
right.
the name's a big secret. And it's like, I just write Matt Davis. You know what I mean? Like, they don't give a shit.
No, they
like,
don't.
I mean, like, maybe my license should have my full name in case I don't want to be confused with another criminal. But
yeah, your license probably should.
But yeah, I every doctor's appointment ever into my 40s, even before I stopped writing Matthew. It's like, I'm not a kid. I don't have to write fucking Matthew on things. So no, you could be whatever you wanted. You can be whatever you wanted. And then like your name, like you took his name because you wanted to for whatever reason, and because make it easier for the kids when the teachers call you. That used to really piss off my mom, by the way. They'd go, Mrs. Davis, and she'd be like, Mrs. Bassett, because she had remarried a guy named Bassett. So it really upset her because she was not a fan of my dad. We can save my parental issues for another episode, but we touched on that in a text. But
we did.
She kind of hates my dad, and so it was never fun when they were like, "Is this Mrs. Davis?" Which also meant, by the way, I was in trouble. Like, that's the other reason teachers would
call. Exactly. Yeah, not a good sign. Red flag. Red flag.
Right. Now they send a nice email first.
Oh, gotcha. Mm-hmm.
Well, our school does a lot of auto announcements, so you get an email and a call. And so I wasn't picking them up. But this year, we began to get calls from, is this River's dad? Or is this, is this Jackson's mom?
I've heard you talk about that before. Yeah.
So now we have to pick the damn phone up when the school calls. Like, fuck.
I know.
Which one of it is it today?
Oh, dear. I know.
All right. Well, listen, you're giving people some fun Spartan content, right? During this time. Well, first of all, your podcast is when does your podcast come out? Every Tuesday?
No, Spartan Mind is every Wednesday.
Okay.
And yeah, every day this week, we're going live on the Spartan Facebook page. Yesterday, I talked about the obstacle of being overwhelmed. Today, I'm going to talk about kind of what you and I talked about in terms of like what happens when you're at home with a bunch of people, or the opposite. Like, what if now you're home and you got like nobody?
Invite me over to work in your kitchen. If your home is empty, I will come there.
Right. So
I'll bring coffee.
I mean, I think this is one thing that I really love about Joe and that I really love about Spartan is that they really do try and continue to provide. And so we're going live, and Joe is going live, I think, every morning and every night. You'll be on today with Joshy boy.
I know, but this is an opportunity for you to plug yourself. So when will you be on the rest of this week?
Okay, so today, well, it depends if you put this out today, but 1 o'clock Eastern, and then it will be 12 o'clock Eastern the rest of the week. So,
if you want your time slot back, you can have it next week. By the way, I didn't mean to steal your time slot.
I know.
Every day next week.
Clearly, we can see who is prioritized here.
Well, you should have told the gentleman who is scheduling it, or he should have told me that's not available. So just tell him I said so, or we'll email or whatever. But anyway, no. Listen, we went back and forth on times, and they were like, Josh is like, I can't do 11, I can do 12. And I said yes. And he said yes. So then you were like, oh,
yeah, it actually, I mean, me cycled into another round of Spartan Live with Dr. L. Didn't happen until after you were scheduled. So I'm gonna rub that one off as just, I just wasn't notified. But no, so every week, Spartan Live, Facebook Live, 12 o'clock Eastern. I'll be there. And then, you guys can find me on Instagram, reach out, ask your questions. If you have any, express your concern, just say, hey, I'm freaking out right now, or hey, I'm doing really well right now. I mean, the other thing I think we need to hear from each other right now is like, I had like a good day, or I hate to sort of be like Pollyanna, but I do think that, it's helpful for us to also see the sunshine and to like acknowledge that good things can come from this,
Yeah, I think so too. And I want to say that, I've had a lot of real talk conversations before this call and whatever, and people have reached out, and I'm always happy to do that. So if you want to say like, I'm having a hard day, like you can reach out to me. However, do not reach out to me and say, Spartan hasn't gotten back to me with my free codes. I cannot help you. That is Spartan customer service. Similarly, with Tough Mudder questions. Hey, Tough Mudder said I was going to get X, but I received Y. That is a question for Tough Mudder customer service. Oh, I just thought you might be able to help. Well, I can't because I don't fucking work there.
I kind of love that people reach out to you, though. I think it's a demonstration of the expertise that they feel like you have.
I feel like that is the nice way to think about it, and that I'm a trusted member of the community.
Yeah, big time.
And just think about it. Just think about, like, is this the kind of thing that like Matt can help with? Or is he perhaps working on other things that don't have to do with me?
Right. Well, I do think that people need to generally think that before they send a question or an email. Like, is this something I can answer myself or Google myself? Although I know that I ask you questions sometimes where you're like, just go find it.
Well, but that's why my fuse is so short.
I know.
The reason my fuse is so short, friends and family alike, is if you text to me, when is Spartan, Georgia? And I know that you could have typed that into Google and the question would have come just as quickly, is because I am inundated with those kinds of questions all the time. And somebody said this to me the other day. Hey, I know your article probably discusses this that I just put out with all the fucking information, but can you blah, blah, blah?
I know.
I didn't read that article that you like put time and effort into, but since my time is more valuable than your time, please answer this question for me so I don't have to take 2 minutes, because I think that's about how long it takes to read the average ORM article, 2 to 5 maybe, to find out the answer. So that is why I'm often a dick and say, if only Google had that information, blah, 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 including my friends who ask me all the time.
Well, and I think that's accurate. And I think to sort of bridge over into right now and the families at home, I would say too, like for spouses and partners and people who are together, like before you ask your spouse or partner a question like, hey, where's the olive oil? Could you maybe open up the cupboard and look? Like that's, I think, because a lot of individuals.
I'm now making a very guilty kid got his hand in the cookie jar face for audio audiences. Boy, do I feel small.
So, there you go. Just that.
Stacy calls it man eyes because
horrible.
Because I'm looking at the olive oil, but it's behind like one thing.
That's right. And you can't you couldn't possibly just go shift it slightly to the side.
Right.
No, it is very bizarre, I think, male thing.
No, because then she calls it boy eyes for the boys. Because her and her girlfriends have called it man eyes. Because I do we could do a whole episode on that. We could do 3 episodes on that. Like as I'm looking around the house for my glasses or my phone, like I just automatically it comes out of my mouth, right?
Right.
Like, hey Stacy, have you right? And she's like, give me a fucking break, dude, right?
Exactly.
Have you looked in X, Y, and Z? So there we go. I just got a big fat dose of my own medicine, and I believe this may change my behavior. And I will go tell Stacy, and she will thank you for it.
Well, Stacy, I love your wife, man. So
as do I.
Yeah. Happy to help. Happy to help.
All right. Well, listen, thank you. I think you provided good value for our listeners, and
awesome.
And yeah.
Hang in there, everyone. Hang in there. Like the cat on the poster hanging from the bar or whatever it is. Hang in there.